Hello, good morning students. Today I am going to just revise some concepts, okay, in the form of some objective questions. I am going to discuss some questions like is assertion and reason, which is given after exercise number 2. Okay, whatever I have chosen the questions which mainly what till now, like up to phylum Echinodermata, whatever the concepts we have studied, on the basis of that these questions have been given. Now this assertion and reason as such will not be asked in NEET examination. It was a mainly this kind of questions were asked in the AIMS and all. But still this statement type questions whatever are there like assertion and the reason whatever is there that will helpful to you to solve the statement type questions which are asked in the NEET examination. Now what kind of this mainly the instructions of when to solve these questions, what instructions have been given to you. That is mainly you can see here, the instructions are, there will be two statements will be given. One is assertion and another one will be reason for this. If the reason for that assertion is correct, then the first option will be, you have to choose the first option. If both A and R, this assertion and reason are true, and R is a correct explanation of the A, then you have to choose option 1 as answer. If both A and R are true, these two statements will be true only, but this is not a correct explanation of assertion, then it is considered as a second option. Then if at all, if A is true and R is wrong, then we have to choose for the third option. And if both A and R are wrong, then we have to choose fourth option. Right? Now let us go with these questions. Assertion which is given here, cysticercosis is a disease caused by accidental ingestion of oncospheres. So let me just revise about this. I will explain to you the tapeworm. Okay, during the tapeworm, mainly I told you it is a digenetic parasite. Tapeworm is digenetic parasite. Right? It completes its life cycle into two hosts. Primary host here is man, and secondary host is pig. Now what happens? Adult mainly the tinea will be present. I have told you that in the intestine of a man, and during mainly the fecal matter, along with the fecal matter of the host, that is man, every day the gravid proglottids are shed off, which consisting of mainly which stores the fertilized egg. That means this fertilized egg along with the fecal matter, when they come out, it will be having a capsule and an embryo will be present over here. Such embryonated eggs are called as oncospheres. Okay, such embryonated eggs are called as oncospheres, and you all are knowing that pig is a coprozoic, so it will ingest these oncospheres. Once these oncospheres enter into the pig's body, there this capsule get digested with the digestive enzymes of the pig, and then the larva is set free, and this larva we call hexacanth larva. Right? Once again, just I am revising it. Then this hexacanth larva will get settled into the muscles of the pig, and then there will be a formation of a cyst. Now this is called as cysticercus larva. That means hexacanth with larva with the cyst is called cysticercus larva. And this cysticercus larva causes the disease called cysticercosis. Okay, is caused by accidental ingestion of oncosphere. That means this statement is true. Right? Next reason for this is given as Taenia solium is a monogenetic parasite. What I told you, it is a digenetic parasite. Right? That means it requires two hosts to complete its life cycle. That means this statement is false. That means which we have to choose as answer. A is true and R is false. That means the answer for this is 3. Okay, you have to choose option 3 as answer. Now, next question. Mantle of pearl oyster is 3-layered. Mantle, you all are knowing mollusca, I have explained to you. This is the characteristics of molluscan. presence of mainly the mantle and the shell. Mantle is a soft spongy layer over the visceral mass. Okay. In the pearl oyster means Pinctada, it is 3 layered. This statement is true. Next is nacre secreting cells. Nacre is nothing but the shining layer of the pearl, that is called as a nacre. So nacre secreting cells are present just below the nacreous layer. I have shown you how the pearl formation takes place. They are the epithelial cells which are present beneath the nacreous layer. That means this is also a true statement, but it is not a correct reason for this assertion. Both the statements are true, but it is not a correct because it is a mantle of pearl oyster is 3 layered. It is not connected at all with the reason. Hence the answer is 2 for this answer. Okay. Now let us study the next questions. Okay. Now let us see the next question. Annelids, arthropods and mollusks are protostomian coelomates. Reason: all the 3 phyla include members with bilateral symmetry and are true coelom. Now first of all, let us see about the annelid, arthropods and mollusks are protostomian coelomates. First of all, what is protostoma? I will explain to you. Protostomes in the sense proto means first and stoma means protostomes. Stoma means mouth. Okay, stoma, proto means first and stoma means mouth, right? That means first a mouth will be formed during the embryonic development, during the formation of a digestive tract. Okay, in the embryonic development, digestive tract when the formation taking place, that time blastopore and then that first it will form into the mouth and then into the anus. So it is such animals are called to be the protostomes. Echinodermata onwards, they are all deuterostomes. And the first blastopore will develop into anus and the next part it will form into the mouth. So Annelida, arthropoda and mollusca are protostomial coelomates. That is true statement only. This is the true statement. All the 3 phyla include members with mainly the bilateral symmetry and the true coelom. This is also true. This is also true statement, but it is not a correct reason for this. It is not a correct reason for whatever the first statement is given. Hence the answer is 2. That means both A and R are true, but maybe the reason is not, or the second option is not a correct, reason is not the correct explanation of the assertion. That's why second option. Next questions here. The honeybee queen copulates only once in her lifetime. The honeybee queen can lay fertilized as well as unfertilized eggs. Now already I have told you that there are 3 mainly the forms caste are there, okay, for mainly in the honeybees. First one, that is worker honeybee, then comes the drone, and then third one, that is queen honeybee. Queen honeybee the main function of the queen honeybee is to only mainly the copulation, is mating with the male and also laying the eggs. Okay, that is only the function of the honeybee. So honeybee queen copulates only once in her lifetime, but during copulation she can copulate with many drones during the copulation time. Hence she can store that many spermatozoa into her spermatical pouch. Okay, but there will be a different drone sperms will be present in her spermatical pouch, but only once in her lifetime she will copulate. That means this is the correct assertion is correct. The honeybee queen can be lay fertilized as well as unfertilized eggs. I already told you that the main function of the honeybee queen is laying the eggs, and here you can see it will also fertilized egg will form into workers and unfertilized eggs will form into drone. But this is not a correct explanation of this. Okay, reason is not giving a correct explanation for the assertion. Hence this answer is also second option we have to choose. Now coming to the next question. Echinoderms are the only radially symmetrical animals with a true coelom. Okay, echinoderms are the only radially symmetrical animals with a true coelom. Reason: echinoderms have secondarily adapted to radial symmetry. Now let us see this, what exactly the assertion means. Echinoderms are the only radially symmetrical animals. Adult echinoderms are radially symmetrical, whereas the larva is bilaterally symmetrical. With true coelom, this is the true statement only. The true coelomate animals with the radial symmetry are echinoderms. Okay, radial symmetry with acoelomates are phylum Coelenterata and Ctenophora. That means the radially symmetrical but with the true coelomate echinoderms is the only phylum, right? Next, this is true statement. Echinoderms have secondarily adopted to radial symmetry. Why it is called secondarily adopted? Just now I told you, that means larva having a bilateral symmetry and adult having radial symmetry. So that is called as a secondarily radial symmetry. Secondarily adopted radial symmetry means having a separate symmetry in larval stage and in adult stage. This is also true statement. But due to the secondarily adopted radial symmetry, it is not having it is not concerned with the true coelom. Hence, this is not a correct reason for this. But both the statements are true. Hence, the option again is second option for this. Right? Now, next coming to this. Hydra has a nerve net but no brain. All its neurons are apolar and connected. Now, I have explained to you while explaining about the body wall in the coelenterates. Okay, just I have done this kind of a diagram. This is the mesoglia. Here endoepithelial. This is the gastrodermis. This is gastrodermis, and this is means inside layer, endodermis we can say, and this is outside, means this is ectodermis. Okay, or maybe the outside ectodermis will be there. Or epidermis we can say. This is epidermis. This is gastrodermis. Here mainly the epitheliomuscular cells are present. Here in outside epidermal layer only the medoblast cells are present. Okay, here the medoblast cells are present. In between whatever the cells are called, interstitial cells are present over here. This is the mesoglia. Here also such kind of the all cells will be there with the pseudopodia and a flagella-like a structure. Right? Now this is the body wall of the Hydra. Hydra has a nerve net but no brain. Nerve net, here I have shown you the nerve cells which are apolar or non-polar we call. Why it is called as a non-polar? Now this is the cell body and these are this kind of maybe the neuron structure will be present over here. Why it is called apolar because, in both the direction, the stimuli can be received, and in both the direction, the transmission of the impulse occurs. Such neurons are called as apolar or non-polar neurons. Such neurons are called as apolar or non-polar neurons. And such kind of the neurons will form a nerve net in the mesoglia. Right? So Hydra has a nerve net but no brain. This is correct. And all its neurons are apolar and connected. That's why it forms a nerve net. That means this is the correct explanation for the assertion. Hence the option 1 we have to choose for this answer. Right? Okay. Now next question. Radula is a rasping organ of. Okay, here the statement is wrong. Please printed. Radula is a rasping organ. Radula is a rasping organ of all mollusks. Okay, almost all the mollusks it is given. Radula is present. It is a rasping organ. Correct. It will help in feeding purpose. It is a characteristics of mollusks, but not all. Okay, all mollusks will not have radula. Then it is made up of vitrodentine. Vitrodentine in the sense enamel-like. It is a enamel or a hard bony substance. Enamel-like a substance, and vitrodentine is an enamel-like a substance which is not present in the radula. Is made up of chitin. It is a chitinous structure. It is made up of chitin and not the enamel or a dentine. That's why both the statements are wrong, and hence we have to choose fourth option for this question. Radula is a rasping organ of all mollusks. It is wrong because radula is only few mollusks will be having the radula as a rasping organ. But I told you also, mainly the Bivalvia radula is absent in the class. Then it is made up of heterodentine. I told you it is made up of chitin. Radula is made up of chitinous structure, not the vitrodentine. That means this is the fourth option for this particular question. Now let us see the next questions. Assertion is given true coelom originated for the first time in phylum Annelida. Reason, it allowed the animal to have an alimentary canal longer than the body and the space for storing gametes. Okay, let us study first mainly this particularly the assertion or the statement, that is true coelom originated for the first time in phylum Annelida. So first mainly the coelom formation has taken place in the phylum Annelida. True coelom for the first time is seen in phylum Annelida only. Okay, so true coelomate started from the phylum Annelida itself. So that is true statement. Okay, now what is this coelom actually? You all are knowing already. It is present in the mesodermal region. It is lined by the mesoderm. Just I am showing you here. This is the digestive tract, and the coelom will be like this, right? And it is mainly lined up by what? The mesodermal cells. This will give rise to muscles. This will give rise to muscles. These mesodermal cells will form further into muscles. That's why this is the alimentary canal, and this muscle formation will causes the contraction of the digestive tract. Okay, that means it will help in digestion, but not the elongation of the alimentary canal. What it is given us in the reason, it allowed the animal to have an alimentary canal longer than the body. That is false statement. And space for storing gametes is also false statement. That means true coelom originated for the first time in phylum Annelida. That is true. Remember, from phylum Annelida only true coelomate animals started. Okay, so they are all called to be enterocoelomates. Okay, they are called to be enterocoelomate. And which type of mainly the coelom is there over here? Schizocoelom. Okay, once again just I am revising the concepts what we have studied previously. So which type of the coelom it is? Schizocoelom. Right? Why we call schizocoelom? Because it is formed from splitting of the mesoderm. It is formed by the splitting of the mesoderm. Hence it is due on its origin. There are schizocoelomates and mainly the enterocoelomate form will be there. Enterocoelomate in the sense what? They are formed from mainly the digestive tract extension. Okay, that we have seen in the mainly the, sorry, I told you enterocoelomate here. Enterocoelomate are formed in enterocoelomate we have seen in the echinoderm because they are formed from the extension of the digestive tract, then pinch off and then form into the coelom. True coelom are also called as eucoelomates. Remember, they are also called to be eucoelomate and then true coelom. Eucoelomate means true coelomates. Okay, so and what type of the Annelida having a coelom? Schizocoelomates. They are schizocoelomates. What are schizocoelomates? Formed from mainly the splitting into the mesoderm. Right. Next is chitinous exoskeleton is a characteristic feature of the arthropods. It allows the diffusion of the water vapor from the, that means what is the, okay, sorry, I have to tell you the answer for this. The true coelom originated from the first time in the phylum Annelida. It is correct statement only, but this is wrong statement. That means we have to choose the option 3 for this. Now coming to the assertion, chitinous exoskeleton is a characteristic feature of the arthropoda. You all are knowing arthropoda mainly having an exoskeleton made up of chitin. Okay, this chitinous exoskeleton, what is the exoskeleton required for? It will limit the size of the animal, okay, and it will protect it from mainly the mechanical injuries and etc. So this chitinous exoskeleton will protect the animal and limit its mainly the increase in the size. It allows the diffusion of the water. See, as it is a hard substance, even it is impregnated with or deposited with the calcium carbonate. So this exoskeleton becomes hard That's why there are different respiratory organs are present in the mainly arthropoda. We have seen the different respiratory organs like gills in the crustacea. Then we have seen mainly the mainly gills will be there. Then also there is a tracheal system in the insects will be present. Then hook lungs are there in the arachnoida. So there are different respiratory organs are there for mainly the respiration. But it will not allow the diffusion, okay, or the gaseous exchange will not occur through the body surface because of the hard exoskeleton. So chitinous exoskeleton is a characteristic feature of the arthropod. This is the true statement. It allows the diffusion of the water is a false statement. Hence the answer is third. Okay, third option. That means assertion is A is true but R is wrong. Next, coming to the next question. Asexual reproduction in sponges is due to genule formation. Each genule develops into a free-swimming larval form. Now let us see what is genule once again. Reproduction in sponges occurs both asexual as well as sexual means. Asexual means of reproduction occurs by asexual type of reproduction occurs by asexual reproduction in sponges is due to genule formation. I was telling you that sponges reproduce both asexually as well as reproduce both asexually as well as sexually. Okay. So during asexual reproduction it occurs through budding, fragmentation and genule formation. I have told you. Fragmentation and genule formation. Now what is this genule? I have also told you that it is an internal bud. Genule is nothing but an internal bud. During adverse condition, usually in the freshwater sponges, when there is a drought like a condition occurs, that time this internal buds will be formed like this. Suppose this is we have taken a sectional view of this. Okay, here this internal buds will be formation taking place. And each genule will then it will complete, then sponge will get disintegrated, but the genules will be thrown out. And each genule will form into a complete individual. That is very important. It will form into a complete individual, but not the larva. That's why first statement, asexual reproduction in sponges due to genule formation, it is true statement. But each genule develop into free-swimming larva, this is the wrong statement. Hence here also the option 3 we have to go for it. Next, among coelentrates, some undifferentiated, next question I am reading. Among coelentrates, some undifferentiated cells can transform themselves into any other cellular structure depending upon the need and physiology. What exactly it means? Coelentrates having undifferentiated cells like a stem cells. Okay, these are like a stem cells which can differentiate into any type of the cell as the body of the coelentrate needs. Whatever the type of the cells required, endoepitheliomuscular cells or maybe the nidoblast cells, depending upon that, these cells can transform into different type of the cells. So they are stem cells which are undifferentiated. Such kind of the cells we call interstitial cells. As I have shown you previously the diagram, you can just recall that diagram with the body wall of the hydra I have shown you. There I have mentioned about the interstitial cells which act like a totipotent cells. Right? So now here we can see among coelentrates some undifferentiated cells, in the sense they are interstitial cells only, can transform themselves into any other type of the cells depending upon the need and the physiology. This reason which is given, rounded interstitial cells are present in between the epitheliomuscular cells which are embryonic totipotent cells. Just now what I told you. That means this is also correct, this is also correct, and this is the correct reason for assertion. That means what option we have to choose here? First option. Understood all of you? So what I told you, undifferentiated cells means interstitial cells only, which are totipotent cells only, which will form into the this kind of however is the body need, they will get differentiated into. Next question. Metagenesis is one of the characteristic feature of most of the members of the coelenterate. Okay, most enadala, this is wrong. Why? Because metagenesis is seen in a dimorphic obelia, which is having a both type polyp as well as the medusa. Images I have already shown you in that, yes, mainly the previous class I have explained to you about how the obelia looks like. So metagenesis is nothing but alternation of generation, okay, where polyp will produces medusa asexually and medusa forms polyps sexually. That is alternation of generation they call metagenesis, which is seen only in the obelia, not almost all the members of the coelenterate. So it is not all feature. All coelentrates do not have this kind of a feature. Hence this statement is wrong. Obelia is dimorphic, yes, correct. It is having polyp as well as medusa. Whereas colony of obelia is trimorphic. So this is also wrong statement. It is not trimorphic, it is dimorphic only. Right? That means it is only having two forms, polyp as well as medusa, not other forms. Otherwise it becomes, when it is more than two, we call polymorphic, like Physalia. Okay, Physalia ಅನ್ಬೋದ. Physalia ಒಳಗೆ many zooids ಇರ್ತಾವ. ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಬರೀ ಎರಡೇ types ಇರ್ತಾವ, polyp and medusa ಇರ್ತದೆ, but not trimorphic. Hence both the statements are wrong. So we have to choose fourth option. A and R are wrong. Right? So question number 8, we have chosen the third option. Question number 9, we have chosen the third option. 10, we have chosen the third option. 11, we have chosen the first option because the reason is the correct, mainly the giving a, so that's why see 11th question answer is 1. Why we have chosen 1? Because this is the assertion and it is giving a correct reason for the assertion, hence it is a 1. And for 12th we have chosen fourth option because both the statements are wrong. Now let us see the next questions. Scolex with hooks are present in Taenia. Now what is this scolex? Taenia morphology we have studied. Taenia solium I am talking about. Taenia solium means commonly we call it as a tapeworm, right? Its morphology we have seen. Here it will be having a head. Okay, this is the head. This kind of the head. Then the neck region will be there and then the proglottids will be present. Okay, this way. This is very tiny head irutade, needle ಎಷ್ಟು ಇರ್ತದೆ the head, that much only tiny. You must have seen now in the images we have already seen how it looks. The head will be very tiny. Now here there will be this is called as a rostellum. This part is called as rostellum. Then there are 2 rows of hooks are present over here and then the suckers. Okay, these suckers and the hooks will help them. There are 4 suckers are present, 2 on lateral side, 1 on the dorsal side and 1 on the ventral side. These hooks and suckers will help this animal, okay, only for attachment purpose. Okay, these hooks and suckers will help the animal for the attachment purpose, not for sucking the food, because in tapeworm, okay, digestive system or alimentary canal is totally absent and it will absorb the food through the body surface. This region under is scolex. Scolex, or we also call it as a head. Okay. Next, this part is called as a neck, and these are called as proglottids. Right? Okay. Now, what is the question given? Scolex with hooks are present in Taenia. That means it's a correct statement. Right? It is a scolex and the head bear what? Hooks. That is the correct statement. Next, what is given? Structure of the scolex gives Taenia more surface area for absorption. Is it true? No. Why? Because this scolex will not give any surface area for absorption. As there is a parasite, this is a parasitic form, alimentary canal is totally absent. That may help them in, that is the need, or that is mainly the thing where it has adopted for absorption of digested food of the host directly occurs through its body surface, and because of that the alimentary canal is totally absent. So it is not the, so this is wrong and this is correct option. That's why we have to choose third answer for this, right? Next, a stage in the life history of liver fluke when it infects the intermediate and the secondary host. Intermediate means secondary host. Let me just revise the life cycle of the liver fluke once again. Now liver fluke, or we also call it as Fasciola hepatica. Liver fluke, or we also commonly we call liver fluke, and the scientific name is Fasciola hepatica. This adult liver fluke will be present in the adult liver fluke will be residing in the liver of sheep or goat. Okay, sheep or the goat, right? This I have told you. Next, what happens? These are hermaphrodites. It will mainly releases the eggs. Fertilized eggs will be released. Okay, along with the fecal matter of the sheep or the goat. Fecal matter of sheep and the goat into the soil. That means these are all fertilized egg. These eggs will be transformed into the larva. Okay, this will transform into the larva outside. That means because of this soil provide the humidity and proper temperature for this eggs to hatch into the larva. And this larva is called as miracidium. This larva, what we call it as miracidium larva. Okay. The further development of this miracidium larva will not take place outside in the soil. So it has to be taken up by the secondary host, that is mainly this freshwater snail. Okay, that has to be taken up by the intermediate host and then the secondary host, that is mainly the freshwater snail will ingest it. And what happens? This miracidium will be taken up by the snail, that is freshwater snail. In the miracidium, when it enters into the snail's body, it will form into the sporocyst. This sporocyst will form into radia. That means radial larva. Radial larva will form into cercariae. Further development will not occur in the snail's body. So this cercariae will be released along with the fecal matter of secondary host, that is the snail. So they are released along with the fecal matter of the secondary host, that is snail. Cercaria larva, when it comes inside the soil, it will form, this Cercariae larva forms the cyst around it. So this is the larva, around that there is a formation of a cyst. Now what we call them as metacercariae. Okay, what we call it as metacercariae. Metacercariae. Right? That's why you will be also asked in which particular stage, okay, the primary host will get the infection. That means metacercaria will enter into the sheep's body, sheep and the goat. That means which are attached to this vegetation. What are attached? Metacercaria are attached, and that will be mainly grazed by grazing animal like sheep or the goat will take up this all, eat this metacercaria along with the grass, and then it will enter into the sheep and the goat body, and then this again transform into the adult liver fluke. Once again, just I have revised while explaining about the liver fluke life cycle. So what is the question given over here? Statement: a stage in the life history of liver fluke when it infects the intermediate host is miracidium. That means it is true, right? So this statement is true statement. There is no elementary canal in Taenia because it is a parasite. This is also true. Idu true are the statement. But one statement liver fluke ಬಗ್ಗೆ ಇದೆ, ಇನ್ನೊಂದು statement Taenia ಬಗ್ಗೆ ಇದೆ. But ಎರಡು statement true ava. Hence this is the second answer. Okay, we have to go for the second option. Both the statements are true. Reason is also true, assertion also true. But it is not the correct explanation of the assertion. Hence we are not choosing the first option. Okay. Next question. Ascaris lumbricoid, that means roundworm, shows very high sexual dimorphism. A cushion-like prominence, once again just I will explain you about the roundworm. Roundworm, I think images I have explained to you previously. Okay, so here male, female Ascaris, you can see it is very long, fat. This is but just we have made it coiled and curve. Whereas male will be very thin and coiled here. This is coiled illa but curved. Okay, don't get confused with this. This is coiled. It is very thin. So this is the male Ascaris and this is the female Ascaris. That means there is a sexual dimorphism is present. Another important thing, female will be having anus and male will be having cloaca. Now once again I have just received a few queries about what is cloaca. Cloaca is a common aperture, okay, for removal of mainly the undigested food as well as mainly the gamete release. Okay, it releases the gamete with the same opening. It releases the gamete with the same opening as well as it is the mainly opening for removal of undigested food. That is the cloaca. Excretory pore, don't get confused with. Excretory pore is for mainly excretion of nitrogenous waste which is present in both male and the female at the same position. Excretory pore is different than this one. Okay, excretory pore is for removal of nitrogenous waste. Whereas in the male there is a cloaca which is for removal of undigested food and the gamete release. So this cloacal aperture having the two pineal setae like a structure which are used for mainly the copulation. Okay, copulation purposes are the copulatory setae, hair-like structures are there. So prominence, that's why it is a cushion-like prominence present just in front of cloacal aperture. That means this is present in the male. This is present in male so that we can make out whether it is a male or a female. So both the statements are correct, but it's not a correct explanation of this. Ascaris lumbricae shows very high sexual dimorphism. This is true statement. A cushion-like prominence present just in front of the cloacal aperture that is present in the male. Okay, that's why we can call it as it mainly sexual. So that's why both the statements are true, and this is the correct explanation of the assertion. Hence, we have to choose first answer. Why sexual dimorphism? Because we can make out whether it is a male or a female. Hence, the answer is 1. Okay, that means it is the correct explanation for assertion. I told you 2, sorry. It is 1 because it is the correct explanation for first statement. Now next is, ecdysis is defined as the shedding of thick chitinous covering of the body. What is ecdysis now? Ecdysis is shedding of exoskeleton which is found in the arthropoda. Okay, shedding of the existing statement, ecdysis is defined as the shedding of the thick chitinous covering of the body. Right, ecdysis means what? Mainly the shedding of, I told you also previously, this is the exoskeleton. Inside that there will be suppose an insect. This exoskeleton is shedded off periodically and that is what we call it as the ecdysis. So why this exoskeleton or chitinous exoskeleton is there? It will not allow the expansion or growth of the animal and even the protect the insect or whatever the may be the animal inside it. So it will not allow. That's why there is a need of mainly removal of this exoskeleton so that the larva can enter into the growth, and that's why it will metamorphose into an adult. Now if you see the example of a silk moth, okay, there will be instar. Now these are the eggs will be there, tiny eggs will be there. This eggs will hatch into the larva called as instar larva. Instar larva periper. This will grow in size. How they will grow in size? Every time there will be a molting. First molting will occur. Molting is nothing but also the ecdysis. Molting, or we also call it as ecdysis, during which the cuticle is shed off so that it becomes a larger size. So this is the second larval stage. Next again the molting occurs and it becomes third larva stage. And if you see the fifth larva, which is what we call it as a caterpillar, it becomes so much big. That means from this small instar to become this much big, it has to shed its cuticle. Hence, both the statements are correct, and second reason is the correct explanation of the first one. Right? Okay, now let us see the next question. That is, the development of most of arthropoda shows a high rate of metamorphosis. Okay, in arthropoda, the development occurs. Okay, there is a high rate of metamorphosis. We have seen mainly usually in the insects, the metamorphosis occurs. So the development of most of the arthropoda shows high rate of metamorphosis. This is true statement only. Parthenogenesis is the commonest method of reproduction among Myriapoda. This is wrong, because parthenogenesis is nothing but formation or mainly formation of the adult from the unfertilized egg. Okay, development from the unfertilized egg, that is called as a parthenogenesis, which is seen in the honeybee and not the class Myriapoda. That means insecta, the parthenogenesis is more common. That's why this statement is wrong and this statement is correct. So we have to choose the third option. Right? Next statements here. Neopilina is considered as a connecting link between Annelida. It is Annelida. Okay, it is Annelida and Mollusca. Neopilina belongs to class Monoplacophora. It is a connecting link between Annelida, why we call, because it is having an internal segmentation which is like a annelid characteristics, and also molluscan characteristics will be present, hence it is called to be a connecting link. So Neopilina is considered as a connecting link between, so this is the true statement itself. Body shows segmental repetition of gills, nephridia and gonad. That means internal segmentation is seen. That's why it is considered as a connecting link between Annelida and the Mollusca. Hence, this is the first option we have to choose. That is the correct explanation for the first one. Next, last questions here. Pedicelaria are minute structures found in the echinoderms. This is DERMS. Okay, the spelling mistake is there while typing. So pedicelaria are minute structures found in echinoderms. Pedicelaria, I have told you, jaw-like structures, right? This way the basilar plate and a stalk will be present. They are forming the exoskeleton in the spines, and the pedicelaria forms the exoskeleton in mainly the echinoderms. And this pedicelaria will help in the removal of debris which are lodged inside the animal. Okay, so that will removal of debris and the sand particles, and even for capturing the food. Okay, but here what is given? Pedicelaria help in locomotion. That means this is a wrong statement. Pedicelaria are minute structure found in echinoderms. This is true statement. That means we have to go for statement A is right, but the reason is wrong. It means A is true and R is wrong. So we have to go for third option. Right? So this few questions I have selected from assertion and reason which have been given in your material, only related with the invertebrate phylum so far what all we have studied. I hope you must have again revised a few concepts when I was explaining about this. Okay, so let us start with the next phylum in the next class. So this is all about few objective questions. Exercise 2 I will solve after completion of this lesson. And exercise 1 I have told you to solve on your own. If you have any queries, you can post it in a WhatsApp group. Thank you.